Right, students, today we are going to start with a new chapter, People as a Resource. We are going to discuss the main points in this chapter. These are resource, meaning of people as a resource, economic activities, causes, measures, and impacts. Now, whenever this question comes, what is a resource? So, resource, goods and services which are used for production of any particular thing is known as a resource. Resources are of two types, natural resource and human resource. While natural resources are renewable and non-renewable, as depicted in this diagram, non-renewable resources such as nuclear, oil, natural gas, coal. But when it comes to human resource, as people as resource in a way of referring to a country's working people in terms of their existing productive skills and abilities. See, students, being a citizen of a country, we are also a resource to our country's progress, and as it is the people who are the basic amenity which produce anything, whether be it in any industry or in agricultural practices. And whenever we talk about human resource of a country, we add to an asset of a country. If the number of people living in a country are well educated or well trained, see over here, not only the educated population is the asset to a country, even the skilled population is also an asset to the country, because the people, if the number of people who are engaged in production of anything, it may be agricultural product or industrial product, or by means of IT, we have various levels of people who are skilled differently. The skill part of human resource is divided into a few subsections as skilled, semi-skilled and unskilled population. Skilled population is those population which is certified in some way or the other for any particular type of skill. For example, like doctors, teachers, nurses, scientists, these are all skilled people and skilled population part of the section of human resource. While semi-skilled is that population which has the information, which have the knowledge, but they are not certified, they are not educated in the particular field. Like a mason. A mason is not an engineer, but he knows how to construct a wall or how to lay down a slab. Now, coming to the unskilled part of the human resource forms the population which does not have knowledge of any particular skill. It is not perfect in some particular skill, but without that unskilled population or the simple labor which we employ for menial works, like for carrying load, like in any construction site, we employ people for loading bricks or clay or the cement. So these are the unskilled population, which is simply not skilled for any particular purpose. Now we come to the human capital and the physical capital. So basically the human resource is divided in three parts consisting of skilled, semi-skilled and unskilled population. Now coming to the human capital. Now what is human capital? Human capital, again, it is a very short part of what we have just discussed about the skilled, semi-skilled and the unskilled section of our human resource. The human capital consists of skill, roles and the people which are the basic amenity on which human capital resides. That is, the people who have different skills. People have different roles in the particular part of production. It may be agriculture, industry, which are the basic two divisions for any human capital. All the amenities which are there for the development of the country at the final stage. Now we come to the physical capital. Physical capital refers to any manufactured asset. Now, to be highlighted, any manufactured asset that is applied production, such as machinery, buildings or vehicles, which is one of the three primary factors of production, and the other two are the land and the labor workforce. Now, before further elaborating on the topic, let's first, I'm over here trying to make the point clear about the human resource itself. So, people who are a part of the workforce, that is the people who are there for any involved in any type of productional activity, whether it is agriculture or industrial. So the workforce are called the human resources by contributing into productivity market, contributing in productivity. The human resource plays a significant that is very important role in the economy of a country. As without any production, if there would be no person there for productional activity, then how can an economy grow? So the human resource plays a significant role in the economy of a country. Any other resource becomes useful only because of the input by the human resource. Now comes the investment in the human capital yields a return like investment in other resource. Now over here, investment means like we provide training to the people, to our human resource for specific jobs or for specific activity. Even if we provided training to our labor for operating a particular machine, that is also an investment in the field of human resource. Investment in the human capital is done through education, training and health care. A person with better education usually learns better than an uneducated person. Over here, I would like to clear that an uneducated person is actually, we can't name them as trained people, although they may have the experience of a particular work. In that way, they are asset. But since we are talking about the skilled part of the human resource, which is required to have a particular training or particular education for the particular job. So again, as I have discussed earlier, the skilled, semi-skilled and the unskilled. Do remember whenever you are discussing the topic of human resource, always keep these three headings in your mind and then take the topic. Now, a person with better education usually earns better. Certainly, a engineer earns more than a normal laborer. It's a very practical part of it. Example, a compounder earns much lesser than a doctor. These are few of the obvious examples. Now, a healthy person is more productive. Certainly, when a person gets a balanced diet, he has better immunity. He is not infected. He does not get infected by seasonal diseases. He has a healthy body. Then the work efficiency certainly enhances. As when we are, or you as a student, if you are not feeling well, that day your output for maybe in studies or in the sports, both recedes is much more lesser than when you are completely healthy and when you are not infected by any particular disease. Even the simple cough and cold infects us and decreases our efficiency. So in that way, a healthy person certainly is more productive. Certainly, educated parents understand the value of education and hence they invest in their children's education to secure a better future for the child. See, actually, the similar situations are now changing a bit because people are, even the uneducated people are becoming aware of the importance of education and how the education helps them from becoming prey to the misuse, to their misuse, and they also want the children to get better of education, whatever is there in their um, limits, within their limits. Now government is also facilitating people from all walks of life to provide better form of education to the children's, again to enhance, to increase the human resource of our country. As in till 2021 we will be the youngest of all the countries in the world, because the number of young youth in the country will be much more higher than the level than any part of the world in year 2000, by year 2021. So now educated parents also take extra care of health and nutrition of their children, and they create a virtuous cycle for creating a better human capital. Certainly, the more we are aware, better, basic motto is that better the person is aware of the importance of education, better the person is aware about the balanced diet concept. So he provides the better of situations to its children. Certainly, you, the children, are the priority of all of your parents. Now, uneducated parents are able to invest on education and healthcare of their children. They create a vicious cycle in which the coming generation is often forced to remain, as because again the means, whatever the facilities they have, whatever the assets they have are limited in comparison to the educated people. Now, since the paying capacity of the uneducated lot is quite less comparison to the better paid off people, so in that case, now government is providing, by the help of various schemes which we'll discuss in the chapter later, providing help and financial assistance and aids to the underprivileged people and their children. Now, coming back to the chapter, the economic activities. Economic activities, again, all the activities in which money is involved. Whichever activity, when money is involved, it becomes an economic activity. Things which we do for our own benefit, our own leisure. Like if you are singing for yourself or in a family function and you are not getting paid for it, then it is a leisure activity. But if you are singing in a concert and you are getting paid for it, then it is an economic activity. Please be clear regarding the economic activity and the leisure activities. Basic punchline: whatever we do for our own our own hobbies like activity for which we are not getting paid, then that is a leisure activity. And the things which we do for, with keeping in mind some economic activity related to money, then that activity becomes the economic activity. Now, economic activity can be categorized into three types: the primary sector, the secondary activities, and the tertiary activities. These are the three main divisions of economic activities. Now, see the primary activities, that is basically the agriculture part, the mining part, the fishery part, the poultry part. These are the basic activities which are the secondary sectors. The mechanization part, that is the industrial part. Then the tertiary, that is the financial, banking sectors, insurance. Let's discuss first the primary activities. The economic activities which are related to the agriculture, poultry, farming, horticulture, animal husbandry, mining, quarrying, etc. are called the primary activity. Now, natural resources are just extracted in the primary activity. Like it is in the form of, they are in crude form. As it is, we get the things from the mines. We can say that we get the untreated, the coarse, the raw part of the any mineral that we get from the beneath the earth, like that of iron ore, or the agricultural activity, we get the crops. These are just the raw material for any particular type of activity. Like we get wheat, and after processing we get the wheat flour, then that is the second stage. But the process by which, by the activities by which we procure that wheat that grows in the field is known as the primary activity. Now come the secondary activity. That is basically the second section in which we refine whatever coarse things we get in the primary sector. Like the manufacturing is called the secondary activity. Natural resources are properly magnified or refined in the secondary activity. The tertiary activity are the economic activities which support the primary and the secondary activities, like that of banking, transport, finance, and the different services come under the tertiary activities. As we have discussed, the quality of population. Now over here, by the quality is that what type of skill, what type of the education pattern, what type of the level of education, what type of the level of the skills that the population has, how the whether the population is healthy, how the type of skills the population has. So all these comes under the quality of population, and it depends upon the literacy rate, health of the people indicate by the life expectancy, and the skill formation acquired by the people of the country. As I have previously told you regard when we were discussing about the skilled, semi-skilled and the unskilled part of the population, that the level of skill which the population has, and that's why it is called the asset for human resource, is called the assets for a country. And thus the quality of population ultimately decides the growth rate of the country. Illiterate, unhealthy population is a liability for the country. Liability means something for which the government of the particular country has to make necessary steps for taking care of that particular part of the population. Liability in this sense means something for which we are liable of. That is, whether if the population of a country is unhealthy, certainly it's the job of the government to take care of that health of the country. So that becomes a liability, that is, money has to be invested for taking care of that population, and that population is not a productive population which does not add something to the assets of the country. Rather, the assets of a country are being used to take care of the health of that unhealthy population. In that case, that type of population becomes a liability for the economy. On the other hand, a literate and a healthy population is an asset for the country. Focusing on the education in the provision made by the providing universal access, that is the number of people being able to get the within the reach of access, that is within the reach, rentation, and the quality of elementary education. Elementary, that is the basic education which is required for any population, with a special emphasis on girls, certainly, as the 50% of our population. There is also establishment of pace setting of schools like Navodaya Vidyalaya in each district. Vocational streams have been developed to equip large population to high schools student with occupation related to knowledge and skills. Certainly, like in the new education policy also, measures are taken to enhance the skill level of students. The literacy rate has been increased from 18 to which was in 1951 to 65 in 2001. Literacy is not only a right, it is also needed if the citizens are to perform their duties and enjoy their rights properly. Because if the people will not be educated, how would they be able to know what are their rights and what are their duties? And if they'll not be able to know their rights and duties, they'll not become a productive asset for the country, rather they'll become a liability. Because if we don't know what is to be done at what time, because many things we don't get only by experience. It's something there are many things for which specific education is certainly required. Not everything depends on experience. That's why we need to know being educated for our duties and to enjoy the rights properly. However, a vast difference is noticed across different sections of the population. Literacy among males is nearly 50% higher than the females. That is the saddest part of the education system in India. Now, literacy rates vary from some district, like in Kerala, to a below it is 96% to a below of 30% in some parts of Madhya Pradesh. The primary school system is expanded to about 5 lakh villages in India. Expansion of schools has been diluted by. Now, Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, it is a very important part of our government's policy, is a significant step towards providing elementary education to all the children in the age group of 6 to 14 by the year 2010. Certainly, it's been continued till date. It is a time-bound initiative of the central government in the partnership with the states and the local government and the community for achieving the goal of universalization of elementary education. Now, obviously, midday meal scheme is also there to encourage the attendance and the retention, as the students coming from different economic backgrounds and from even from the below poverty line, they find the midday meal as an opportunity, as a prize for getting education. They attend school just for the midday meal, so that there is a concept that if they attend the school, they are going to get the meal for that day. For securing their meal, they attend the school, and the government is also benefited, because by the help of this allurement of midday meal, these these children are getting educated. Children and certainly their nutritious status is also improving because of the balanced diet format being followed in these midday meals. Thus, these midday meals are actually benefiting the students from this walk of life. Not only that is an allurement for education, but also it is providing a balanced diet, balanced nutrition need of these growing up children. Now, the health part. The health of a person helps him to realize his potential and ability to fight illness. As I have already explained, that if we are down by even the common cold, then our own efficiency decreases. But when we are completely fine, we are not having any disease, our efficiency rate increases, enhances. Certainly, an unhealthy person becomes a liability for any organization need. Health is indispensable basic for realizing one's well-being. Indispensable, that is, it cannot be separated from us. There are many places like in India which do not have these basic facilities. Just 4 states like Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra have 81 out of 181 medical colleges. On the other hand, states like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh have poor health in disease and few medical colleges. That's why now the voice is being raised that the government should spend more on the health facilities for the people, especially after this pandemic, when we are getting aware that the number of doctors, number of the health workers, and the basic facilities, basic machineries are absent in our hospitals in this pandemic. So now comes the unemployment. The unemployment is said to exist when a person who is willing to work at the going wages cannot find a job. See, when qualified people or a person who is wanting to work is not even at much lower uh, salary than against to his abilities, but then too he is unable to find a job, it is this situation is called the unemployment. See, I've tried to elaborate this point a bit because few things are to be uh, explained to you in the best of ways. I've tried my best. When a person is actively seeking a job but is unable to get employed, but he wants to work but he is unable to find a job, he is an unemployed person. And people in a working age of 15 to 59 only can be termed as unemployed. If any one of them is without a gainful employment, additionally, if a person volunteering does not want to work, he cannot be termed as unemployed. See, so there are at times when people have the ability to work but they don't want to work. Then in that case, they are not the unemployed lot. In fact, if a person who wants to work, he is unable to get himself a job, then that case he is an unemployed, he or she is an unemployed person. Now, employment is also seasonal type of unemployment. Now, you need to understand the concept. See, like in villages, in agricultural practice, at the time of sowing and at the time of harvesting, much more people are required for both these jobs. But not many people are required for taking care of the crop in the intermediate period time frame. So this type of unemployment is more prevalent in rural areas, certainly. Also, the farming cycle is season based, certainly. We have the three main seasons of Kharif, Rabi, and now. So the framing farming cycle is season based. There are certain months in which it is quite busy for the farm worker, and other time it is simply they don't have much of work, only few people can manage the work, so it becomes a seasonal unemployment for that at that time. Also, it is a hidden unemployment also is there. um, See, for example, when a piece of land is owned by a single farmer, but it has been inherited by four of his sons. Now, each that particular land is being divided in four different sons of his. Now, those one fourth land is also further divided among the sons of that son. So now, the number of people depending on that land get increases with each inheritance. This type of unemployment is also more prevalent in rural areas. And to understand this, let us take the example of a family with 8 working members. All of them are working on the farm. The size of the farm makes it possible to be efficient for manageable by 5 people only. The extra 3 people are not contributing towards any growth in productivity. They are working because they have no other gainful employment. Their potential could be have given better results if utilized elsewhere. Certainly, if they would have been another job opportunity, then they would be working more efficiently. Similar situation can also be seen in some family owned shops where all the family members may be working in the same shop but not adding substantially to the outcome. Certainly, it is this form of unemployment is known as the hidden unemployment. Now comes the uneducated unemployed. Educated unemployed, sorry. The problem of unemployment among the educated youth is very high in the urban area. Certainly, we have the one of the highest graduate number of graduates in the country than anywhere else in the world. Nowadays, even higher educated youths like graduates and postgraduates are unable to find jobs. Certainly, it's there. A few days back on television in the news, it was coming that a PhD holder girl was protesting amongst the farm workers because she did not got any job even after research in chemistry, and then too, so she was working as a farm worker. So it's just an example and a very harsh reality. So some analysis suggests that most of the higher educated youth do not possess employability, but most of the analysis say that it is because of the demand and supply gap. Certainly, demand and supply, whenever there is a demand, the number of people which are required is not there. But at some time, the number of people required are very small and the people available for that particular job is much more higher. Like for example, if some government job vacancy comes out for about 950 posts, and the applicants which get apply for that particular job, their number ranges from 5 lakhs. So certainly it's a very vast difference for a 900 job and application coming for 5 lakhs. While many technical qualified people are unemployed, there are many jobs remaining vacant because of lack of properly trained persons. Sometimes the qualification is such high that we don't get people, and sometimes the qualification is so that we are getting n number of people for a particular seat. Now, effects of unemployment. Unemployment can be emotionally drain on the unemployed person. Certainly, there is a very much of stress that comes as whether be it a male or a female, because with age it comes the coming of taking up of responsibility. You can't always be a burden to your family. Certainly, you have to take care someday or the other of your parents and certainly of yourself first of all. So the effects of unemployment is actually very emotional draining. It can be financial emotional drain on his family members. A large number of unemployed people is ultimately a liability for the society. Certainly, high rate of unemployment can also increase the crime rate. Certainly, because the needs are there. Everybody wants the best of things from life, but if they are not employed, they'll certainly snatch and indulge into illegal activities. If they are not getting the job, if the frustration level will increase, and to to manage their needs, they'll certainly indulge into illegal activities. Now, students, after discussing the employment part and the unemployment part, we come to the market activities, because certainly whenever we are taking up any chapter in economics, and whenever we are talking about goods, services, and the assets and the liabilities, we have to talk about the market activities, because whenever money is involved, when then only it is an economic activity. So when some product or service is produced to be sold market, when it is produced for selling purpose in the market, it is a market activity. Not that for example, whenever a pickle is manufactured at some manufacturing unit and it is made for the sales purpose, then it is a market activity. But when your mother makes pickle for the usage for whom, then it is certainly not a market activity, because she is not getting any exchange in terms of money. She is not being paid for making that pickle for the consumption of the household. Now, non-market activities. As I have given you the example, the making of the pickle for a household is a non-market activity because it does not involve any money. It's just the emotion being attached for that particular thing, for that particular pickle which your mother has for the family. When some product or service is produced for self-consumption, that is, it is called non-market activity. If a farmer produces just enough to meet his family needs, that is, whatever the production is being produced at the field, whatever it may be, the rice, it may be the wheat, whatever, is just they have been grown for the family uses, then it is a non-market activity. Similarly, the work of a housewife is a non-market activity because she is working for the benefit of her family members. It's just from the emotional attachment and the sense of responsibility that she has. Now, as we have discussed the unemployment part, urban employment and the rural employment, where the urban is the disguised and seasonal unemployment, and industrial and the educated unemployment. Now, we come to the measures that certainly there should be a check on the or a control on the population. The skill education, certainly government should focus. In fact, the people also should focus and try and use their resources for getting skilled in some particular trait. The proper focus should be given on by the government as well as by the people for the proper health and knowledge of the market. Certainly, knowledge of the market should be provided to the people by the government for the upcoming challenges, making people aware regarding the upcoming challenges. Like, for example, the vocal for local, the call given by the Prime Minister in this pandemic time is very applicable, very practical. For if we want to be there in the economy and we want to strengthen our economy, we have to retain the foreign exchange within our boundaries of a country for the being better utilized in the health facilities or in the defense. Although we are trying to become self-reliant in everything, but then too we can use that foreign exchange for some better of things. So if we'll get the knowledge of whatever the basic requirements needed by the market at present, market that is the demand of the people, then in that case the production of a small by the like the SMSE, that is the small units, the manufacturing units that are being enhanced, that are being facilitated by the government for the production of new things locally. So the small scale industrialists are being given appraisal, they are giving monetary help, assistance by the government for setting up of new ventures for for producing things locally. So that is the knowledge of the market. Now, impact of the human resource on growth. Certainly, efficient labor increases the productivity with the help of the latest technology. As we have discussed in the very first starting part of this video, human resource increases the specialization of a person in a particular product, physical capital formation, and increase in the demand. Increase in the demand means that if the person is well educated or well skilled, he is healthy, then the opportunity of being employed will be much more, percentage will be much more higher than comparison to the unskilled format of the liability form of human resource. So in this video I have tried to cover all the topics that were being part of your this chapter. people as a resource, and I hope I have been able to clear all your doubts. And even if there's something been left, in the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan part, I'll be making a different video for that, because this particular video has become quite lengthy. But students, please go through this video a number of times and try and give it a thumbs up, and do subscribe the video channel, so that I would get the encouragement from your side also for making much more informative videos for your benefit. Because the basic goal of this channel is to help you students with the social studies part, and to be able to clear all your doubts regarding whatever comes under the heading of the subject social studies. So till then, till the next video, students, stay home, stay safe, and Jai Narayan.